You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another TV show review. Today I'll be reviewing the Joe Schmo Show from Spike TV. Now, the Joe Schmo Show was a reality show with an interesting concept. What it was a fake reality show with a fake competition where one person would think that it was real and everyone else would be paid actors and try to keep the charade going, and at the end they give the real person $100,000. Each season had a different fake reality show that it was representing. The first season was Lap of Luxury, which was a pretty standard competition-based one with some pretty crazy and over-the-top competitions that obviously wouldn't be in a real one, with just enough 2000s edge to make it pretty fucking entertaining. The first season had a guy named Matt Kennedy Gould, who was the Schmo, as they call them. And it was in a house. They were all staying in a house doing these competitions. The second season was more like a dating show where they actually had two people that were schmoes, a man and a woman. Although pretty quickly on in season 2, the woman, Ingrid Wiese, actually figured out that it was fake, and so they actually recruited her as an actress from there on out. And then they brought in another woman to take her place as the female schmo. Once again, there would be challenges and things like that, but, a little bit of a different dynamic because it's a parody of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. It was called Last Chance for Love. The third season actually came out 9 years after the second season. The first two seasons came out a year apart, so 2003 for season 1, 2004 for season 2. And then the third season came out in 2013. Now, the third season had a very unique reality show gimmick, which is the Full Bounty, where it's a bounty hunter show where they're competing to become the next bounty hunter. And with season 3, they were again back to one schmo, a guy by the name of Chase Rogan. Season 2 actually had a cameo of the schmo from season 1. Matt Kennedy Gould came in as a pizza guy during one of the episodes of season 2. Seasons 1 and 3 were each 10 episodes, whereas season 2 was only 9. Although one interesting thing is season 1, the DVD, combined the first 2 episodes into one big long episode, which was kind of odd. The episodes of this show were like 45 minutes typically, although there were 90-minute season finales for seasons 1 and 2. All 3 seasons were hosted by Ralph Garman, who also does a lot of voices on Family Guy. And with each time Ralph hosted it, he portrayed a different character. The first season he played a fictionalized version of himself, who's a lot more smarmy and oblivious and kind of smug. Whereas season 2, he played a posh British guy called Derek Newcastle. And then in season 3, he played a bounty hunter by the name of Jake Montrose, who was very clearly, at least partially, a parody of Dog the Bounty Hunter. Now, each season featured a cast of characters that were typically based off stereotypes from different reality shows. So, for instance, they had the asshole, they had the bitch, they had the black guy, they had the gay guy, they had the deaf girl, which I'm pretty sure is not a cliche, but it was really ridiculous and over the top. And in season 3, they even had the celebrity, where they had Lorenzo Lamas portray an asshole version of himself. Now, out of all the characters that were portrayed by the various actors, I think my favorite was easily the Hutch from season 1, who was portrayed by David Hornsby, who, if you don't know, is Rickety Cricket from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But I don't think any of the other asshole characters came even close to being quite as funny as the Hutch. The Hutch was really funny. Now, with this series, the DVD releases got less with each season. So season 1 had a DVD release that was uncensored with special features, and it was in a really nice release where it had, different cases for each disc. A pretty standard TV show release, like Futurama or Drawn Together, or several other shows would get like the normal one with the big case with the mini cases inside of it. My favorite way to release different seasons of stuff, by the way. It's either that or the way South Park does it that I like. Those are the 2 ways that I like the most with those cases. Season 2 got a Mill Creek release, and if you don't know, Mill Creek is known for being very bare bones and very unique releases, so the Mill Creek release of Season 2, while it is still uncensored, it has no bonus features, which is fine. It doesn't necessarily need them. But it also came in a really odd case where it's got like a plastic shell to it, but then the discs themselves go into these little paper sleeves that then you put in these square holders. Nevertheless, a perfectly serviceable release, and obviously the release itself isn't the biggest thing. I loved watching the show either way. But then we got to Season 3, which never had a DVD release, so I had to buy it digitally on Amazon and watch it on my computer instead of being able to watch it on my TV. Which is fine. I mean, I guess you could say, oh, you could sign into Amazon on your Xbox. Yeah, but the Xbox is signed into a different Amazon account. Don't worry about that. Point is, a little bit different. It wasn't uncensored. I don't have a physical copy of it, so being censored and not having a physical release definitely was kind of a pain in the ass with Season 3. But nevertheless, it was still really fun to watch. Now, actually ranking these seasons, I would say Season 3 is actually the best. And the reason Season 3 is the best is because it's the most over the top. It is fucking ridiculous. They have him hold a chick at gunpoint, making him think he's holding a loaded gun when he's not. He's a prop gun. They have him go out on what he thinks is real bounty hunts and actually chase down criminals and stuff like that. The guy actually got injured during a cuff a perp game where he was supposed to cuff a fake criminal, and then he got hit in the head with the handcuffs because it got really aggressive. Not to mention the challenges and the premise were all just really ridiculous in Season 3. Like, the cast was the most ridiculous in Season 3. You had the deaf girl, which sometimes would accidentally slip up, and he would notice that too and kind of question it. In Season 3, he does question it a couple of times where he's like, is this real? This has got to be fake. Like, this is a setup. Whereas, Season 2 had a similar thing where Ingrid figured it out pretty early on, but they just decided to just reveal to her early because Tim, the guy Schmo, wasn't onto it yet. So they convinced Ingrid to join the cast. But Season 3, they're able to get Chase back on the hook. They're able to re-hook him a few times, even though he questions it a few times. They also have Lorenzo Lamas, pushing this advertisement for this fucking Speedo he's got called the Comfort Pouch or something like that. But, the deaf girl also has, a ventriloquist dummy called Mr. Wentworth, and she has an interpreter that's, in love with her. And then there's this huge, masculine black guy who, of course, is gay and has, a rainbow kite, and is wearing the Speedo, playing with his kite out in the yard and shit, and then he reveals to Chase that he's gay. And then, of course, different characters supposedly have a crush on him, and there's a love triangle, and it's fucking ridiculous and stupid. Also, they have spirit animals where they bring in actual live animals, like llamas and fucking foxes, and a flamingo, and all sorts of shit where they're given different spirit animals from this Indian chief. And actually watching it, the spirit animals all absolutely revealed something about the character. So the black guy who later revealed that he was gay, it was a flamingo. This chick that was pretending to be a widow was a chameleon. She was a completely different person. Her character was pulling a switcheroo. She was pretending to be something she wasn't. Which again, she already wasn't who she was because she was a fucking actress. But the character herself was, lying. And then the guy that was his buddy, his friend, was a dog, man's best friend. They also had this guy that was an ex-con in it. That was pretty funny. They had to film a commercial for his bounty hunting thing. He also built it up Jake Montrose was a real well-known bounty hunter, and Chase just bought it. There's also a part where they, chain him to supposed real inmates, and then Chase's inmate escapes. And again, it just gets increasingly more and more ridiculous with Season 3, which I love. Just the lengths that they push it makes it really funny, but it's also a lot more risky, because they came really close to fucking, losing him and making him figure it out a lot of times. Season 3 is easily my favorite. Season 1 is probably my second favorite, just because Season 1, I think, had funnier challenges and a funnier cast overall, and obviously the Hutch carries a lot of that, because the Hutch was a fucking great character. And though by process of elimination, Season 2 is my least favorite season, that doesn't mean that it's any lesser than the other two. It's still great. This show is really solid throughout. One thing that's interesting to note is that the first two seasons are edited pretty similarly, with very similar style and, different, transitions and splash screens where it's got, these old TV sets and stuff that's really cool to look at, and very similar, credit sequences and stuff. And I'm pretty sure they even filmed the first two seasons in the same house. But Season 3, coming 9 years later, naturally has a very different editing style. It's a lot more polished, a lot more modernized, and it also, uses that fucking violin sound effect that's always used in Kitchen Nightmares for dramatic effect. It also doesn't have the same credits theme, and there's a few other things that I'm I kind of wish that they had brought back some of the old stylistic shit in Season 3, but nevertheless, it was 9 years later, and Spike was kind of on the way out. Spike only had a few years left after that. Which sucks, because as you know, Spike TV was one of my favorite TV networks. Also, Season 3's reality show that they're faking, The Full Bounty, is the one that I'd be most interested in seeing a reality show on. A lot of the challenges and jokes they do in this show absolutely would not be able to be done today. They had one called Hands on a High-Price Hooker, where they literally had to put a body part on a body part of a hooker, and whoever's the last one to let it off loses. And then there was literally a thing where they had to lick chocolate off a model, they're licking her fucking tits and stuff like that. It's shit that I'm surprised they were even able to get away with back then, but I'm this is why I love Spike. This is why I love old television. There's no way in hell they'd be able to pull this shit now. In Season 2, they had the characters and the actual schmoes have to perform strip teases as well. as part of the competition. Like, there's a lot of shit that I'm like, yeah, that's surprising they could get away with it. Also, they did, like, a frisk thing, where, like, the wife, quote-unquote, of Jake Montrose was, like, literally groping the asshole character Randy, and then the asshole character Randy was, like, literally, like, feeling up this chick that he was frisking. Like, it's nuts the amount of shit they could get away with in this show. Yeah, it really took me back watching this, reminding me of the 2000s and the 2010s and how much I fucking loved those decades. And it's really fun, especially if you like reality TV and bad reality TV, and also seeing it parodied. Yeah, the Joe Schmo Show is great. It's honestly one of my favorite reality shows now, and I'm glad that I watched it. Supposedly it was going to be getting a reboot, but that keeps getting delayed, so God knows if that'll ever happen. But apparently Ralph's not coming back, which kind of sucks, because Ralph was, like, the only constant in each season, and I fucking love Ralph. Ralph Garman was great. Overall, it's just some great television, and I'd highly recommend checking it out. Anyway, this has been Fugitive Red Eye. Have a good one. Toodles.